Hi, everyone. I'm Alena with Celebrate Every Step, and I am here with Raven from Moon's Oracle. And Raven is amazing, and I am so glad to have her with me today. We were just talking as we were setting up here that we live in very small towns, and when people reference small towns, they're like, like 20,000. We're talking like 5,000 in our small towns.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so we're kind of neighbors with a like even tinier small towns in between, about 45 minutes from each other. And she has an amazing brick and mortar store. And what she's bringing to that is 25 years of experience with the spiritual, the metaphysical. She does the oracle card readings that bring insight and clarity, and just so much depth of knowledge and really gumption. For you to bring that store to this area was a really big deal because it was outside of the norm in this
Mhm.
area. So I appreciate you so much for
Mhm.
that. And I appreciate you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's quite an
Yeah.
honor. So
Oh,
I love and respect you so much, and you're definitely you know everything that you said about me. I definitely feel
no.
likewise.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And so, yeah, so let's talk about you today. I'm so
Oh,
excited to share you with the world. And you are out there, you've got a TikTok presence, you're on, the good old Facebook and all of those things. And you offer classes and so many amazing items. So, I kind of want to touch into your day to day. So, when we're talking sacredness, intention, and just this connection with the spirit world, with the metaphysical, how do you bring that into your life? What inspired you to start living your life in that way?
um, I mean, I've been walking this path at least consciously for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what brought me to this path as a younger person was wanting to live my best life and
Mm-hmm.
live my truth,
Yeah.
and live honestly as my authentic self. And it was, moving into a more spiritual aspect of learning about myself. Like, my spiritual path did not even remotely start thinking that eventually I would be, you know, a professional business owner, having a brick and mortar. The healing started with myself.
Mm-hmm.
The learning to love myself, learning to grow within myself. So by growing within myself, especially the connection with nature,
Yeah.
a lot of spiritualities, whether it's indigenous natives, um, or my Italian, folk magic background, whatever it was bringing me closer to nature. It was bringing me closer to
Mm-hmm.
my ancestors, and a lot of that was self healing, getting my self-esteem. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really what started it. And also my deep connection with nature as a child. I just remember, being 7 or 8, and I grew up in New York City. So going to, the Museum of Natural History and like being so enamored with their crystals and their rocks, and collecting, rocks and crystals at a very young age. So finding a lot of connection within nature, a lot of connection within old school spirituality, and kind of remembering that, and then bringing that into my everyday. Having that gratitude, having that connection, having that thankfulness every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, working every morning, whether it's through meditation or just, doing my crystal work in the morning to get some balance. Again, I'm very big in gratitude. So every morning I wake up, I drive to the shop, and I'm singing my gratitude. I'm asking,
Mm-hmm.
for guidance or for my divine ancestors to walk with me, for, the divine to walk with me and guide
Mm-hmm.
me. So, from the moment I wake up, um, I'm always trying to connect, to have the best experience that I can for the day.
Yeah.
Now,
And
if I wake up and I'm in a foul mood, that might be a little harder, but that's even more important to remember that gratitude, and that, kind of putting my best foot forward, or at least
yeah.
asking my spiritual team to just, help me
Yeah, help
and
smooth that over a little bit.
exactly help
Soothe
me
my
see, help
soul,
me
help me
see.
get it together.
Like even this morning, just driving on 219, coming to the shop in DuBois. I mean, the clouds are just so beautiful, and
Yeah.
sun's out, and just kind of just getting into that meditative state. And that's one
Yeah,
thing I actually tell my students is meditation is not always traditional what you think meditation is.
no,
It could just be literally being conscious and driving, but also focusing on the natural world around you. And that's getting back to your
absolutely.
question. That's
Hmm.
really what drives me is my natural connection to nature and to the natural world around me.
Yeah, absolutely. And oh my gosh, there's like so many things I want to say about all of that because it's so true,
Sorry,
so accurate.
I'm
No,
rambling.
it's great. I love it. I took notes. And exactly how I try to live my life too. That nature connection starting in childhood. I was raised Catholic, so that's a very structured thing. You're going to church, you're doing the different sacraments. I went to Catholic school, but then that, you know, looking at creation and nature, and it started out for me too with the rocks and the crystals. I had a couple uncles that were really into them, and so they shared that love with me. And but I mean, I'd even just go to the stream and find a cool rock.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be the gemstones per se. But then I remember too, my one uncle gave me a raw ruby, because my birthstone is ruby, and I still have that. I mean, I was probably 6, 7, 8. I cannot believe that did not get lost along the way. And then the other that I remember so clearly is I am a quarter Lithuanian, and we still have Lithuanian or relatives in Lithuania, and they came to visit and brought amber. So the beautiful, from the source amber. And man, that just like, and again, I still have pieces of that from very young. And my dad had petrified wood. And those are like my top three that I remember distinctly receiving those, just their beauty, but feeling how amazing they felt too.
Hmm.
And I love that. I think that's what you're talking about too. When you're looking at nature, when you're offering gratitude, it's changing your vibration, it's changing your energy. And
Right.
so, even if you wake up in that crappy mood, if you can flip that switch into the gratitude, into the connection with the divine, it changes your whole being. And it's not that we can't have crappy moods and get angry, and absolutely, we got to get those emotions out, but
Yeah.
we can't live in that place. And
Right.
that's what I notice. All of these practices that you mentioned, the nature connection, the gratitude, that allows me to not stay in that place of anger, frustration, overwhelm, and move back into flow and peace and gratitude.
And it's
The
really important, not to cut you off, it's really
No, you're
important to
fine.
acknowledge those
Mm-hmm.
times of depression, sadness, anger,
Yeah.
frustration. It's really important. And that's kind of the aspect of I believe in love and light, but I also feel like people who kind of get into this aspect of it all has to be love and light, or you
Yeah.
have to positive vibes only. And that really, suppresses the reality of life is you have the
Yes.
good and the bad, you have the struggles and the highlights, you have the darkness and the light, and we have to acknowledge both.
Mm-hmm.
And once you acknowledge like, hey, I'm really having a crappy day, this is what's causing it. Sometimes even just internalizing it, talking to your spirit guides, talking to a good friend, just getting it out some way, writing it down, burning it,
Absolutely.
that
Mm-hmm.
acknowledges it and helps you to I don't even like to use the word move on, but work through it into
Yeah.
a better place. Because even when I'm having a crappy mood, I might be like, hey, I'm thankful for today, but, I'm still in a pissy mood.
Mm-hmm.
But, at least it's me taking this personal responsibility, me having an active role in how I'm feeling and possibly how I can feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. We can, that toxic positivity, ooh, does that boil my blood? Because
Hmm.
we cannot be positive all the time. There
Yeah.
are really shitty things that happen in life, in our world, and I do move into that, things are happening as they're meant to, as they should. But when I'm feeling off kilter, I look at that as what kind of change do I need to make? So if somebody's coming to me struggling with anger, struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety, those are good messengers, you know. So
Mhm.
what is going on in your world that is either not in alignment with you personally or how you want to be living your life? And let us use those emotions to either make the changes we need to make or to get into that practice of surrender and letting go. So
Right.
I love that. Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page with the.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the more you don't acknowledge, then it's just going to
Yeah,
fester and fester and fester, and then it becomes a bigger quote unquote
absolutely.
problem that
Mm-hmm.
you have to address down the line, and and eventually you're just going to either completely burn out, have
Mm-hmm.
a mental breakdown, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to just unleash this just eruption of emotion,
Yes.
and you're just not going to know how to work through it because you've just suppressed it for so long.
Yeah. And I think I said this yesterday to a client is just because somebody hasn't dealt with their stuff doesn't give them the right to spew their toxicity on everybody else. And
Exactly.
I see that happen a lot when people are just
Mhm.
pushing it down, not acknowledging, pretending like
Right.
everything's fine, you know, brushing things under the rug. It doesn't work because it
No.
still comes out in some way that is usually not very healthy and not very beneficial for the person themselves, but also the people around them too. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Exactly.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about how you process your emotions. And of course, I'll chime in. You mentioned the kind of going inward, talking with your spirit team. You mentioned writing it out and doing the burning rituals. Yeah, if you'd like to talk a little bit more about that, I'd love to share those tools with the listeners.
Well, definitely. I love to be able to write things down. I think
Hmm.
writing is just an expression of getting it out of your head, making it a little bit more tangible. Um, which is why I don't agree with oppression of feelings and
Hmm.
thoughts. Even if you feel like um, they're not leveled in reality, they're still
Hmm.
your feelings and your
Hmm.
thoughts, and you need to get them out. So, I'll write something down, put the energy in there, put the focus in there, and light a white candle.
Hmm.
White for me is purification. And then I'll burn it and then throw it into like a heat proof bowl or whatever it is. And then I just, fling the ashes off my
Hmm.
property because, that's something that I'm trying to get rid of and I don't want it on my property.
Yes.
So that helps, but even just something as meditation helps,
Hmm.
um, and sometimes just walking in nature. Nature's always a big part of my life,
Hmm.
and I always find some sort of clarity, whether it's I'm walking by myself, by a stream or with trees, or sometimes again it's just like listening,
Hmm.
and taking in what nature is trying to tell me. And again, communing with my nature spirits, communing with animals,
Hmm.
whatever it is I need to do to kind of almost like getting out of my own focus and shifting focus from like just kind of, spinning in my own head
Hmm.
and kind of going into nature and almost letting it loose, whether I'm talking to myself, talking out loud, and looking for healing. Like I
Yeah.
even find just simply walking through the woods or whatever it is, wherever you find your sanctuary,
Yeah.
and just allowing it to shift your focus. And sometimes that gives you another angle of help that you might need. Because when we spin in our own heads, we're not really allowing anything else to come in. We're
Yeah.
not seeing any messages, even if we're like, oh, I really need a message, but you're still kind of stuck in your own head spinning, and you're not opening your eyes to everything else that's around you. We put our blinders on a lot of times,
Absolutely.
especially when
Hmm.
we're, going through something or spinning. When we have the blinders on, we can't see around us. So I find, walking in nature, taking that time to get out of my own head. Even if when I read for people, I could be having a really bad day, or I have my own personal things like we do. And I find, reading for a client helps me shift out of just focusing on myself, and it helps me refocus on them and
Yes.
being able to give them my full attention. So I just kind of put my stuff on the back burner. It's not that I'm
Hmm.
not dealing with it, but it's a really good way to just kind of focus away from what I'm spinning about and then give that energy to a client, and I end up leaving usually getting a lot out of that reading as
Hmm.
well. whether it's another perspective, whether it's just me resting my brain from spinning about my own stuff, and I can actually help somebody else. Like that to me helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And nature is so grounding, so centering. And I've been doing, I'm working on building my business and have so many different aspects that I'm bringing in, but I want to do it in an inspired way. So I've been setting that intention every morning of help me to see the opportunity and possibility. Because sometimes, like you were saying, when we have those blinders on, I grew up with parents that worked, regular 9 to 5 jobs. And as an entrepreneur, you can do anything that you want with your business, but you can't do it in a chaotic, just spinning your wheels kind of way. It needs to be in a purpose-driven way. So, I often set that intention of, please help me to see the opportunity and possibility
Right.
in that controlled, calm, focused way. And that's exactly what nature does for me. I do a lot within my mind because obviously with the hypnosis, with the therapy, that's all mental and emotional based. But then, I have plants in my house. I have the trees in the backyard. I have the birds that come in, so even those very small connections to nature, just like I can feel that just drop, all that stress and all that chaos and all that questioning of myself just falling away the second I tap into that power of nature.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially you just mentioned, plants in your house.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people. I mean, I grew up in the city, so we don't have necessarily, nature right in our backyard. So even having plants in your home, whether you have altar space or just wherever your sanctuary is, having that, because like you said, nature is very grounding, it's very transformative. It shows you, and I think that's why I do love to be within nature, because it really does show you change, transformation, life, death, rebirth, everything that we go through, we can absolutely connect and see reflected in everything that's around us. And even going back before what you were talking about, like as a child, I was very, very nature centered. Growing up in Brooklyn, my family had a country home in the Catskills. So every summer we would go up there. And that's, again, where I think I kind of got more of my nature connection, kind of running around, going into the lakes. And then, of course, I would find all these beautiful rocks, just regular rocks, like you said before. And I just carry them, via a bag to the house. And my mom's like, why are you bringing these rocks in? I'm like, I don't know. Like one looks like something, one's really cool looking. And like, we still have the house. And before my dad renovated it, I went through my old room and I, kid you not, there was just piles and piles of rocks in my closet. It's like, oh my God, I can't, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But, I became very connected to nature. From a very, young person. And luckily, living in New York City, we had Central Park, Brooklyn had Prospect Park. So we weren't without nature, but there was that lacking of it. So I feel very privileged and blessed that I grew up having this sanctuary up in the country that me and my family could, enjoy. And I think that gave me as a child a different perspective of connecting with nature. And then eventually, moving from the Roman Catholicism way I was brought up, going to Catholic school for 8 years, yada, yada, yada. And then being able to really find what connected with me. And thus I found, an earth-based practice within paganism and things like that. So.
Yeah. And I know it's so neat. And I hike a couple years ago, I implemented that at least once a week I was going to take my kids hiking. And they were, pretty little at that point. I think when we started, I don't even think I had Ian yet, but I made them carry their own or wear their own backpacks, to carry water and snacks, but also to carry all of the rocks that they would gather. Because I'm like, I'm not carrying that. If you want to commit to carrying that, 2 to 6 miles, yes. We still have some stones. They must have been hungry one trip. We went to McConnell's Mill, and there is a waterfall there that they love. They Hell's Hollow, I think, is the name of it. And we go up the waterfall, but then you can also go downstream. And that day they would pick up rocks and be like, oh, this is a piece of pizza, oh, this is a burger, oh, this is a baked potato. And I'm like, are you guys hungry? Because
That's
why do all
great.
the rocks look like food today? So I love
And that's
that.
a great way to, not only connect children to nature, but help their imagination. It's almost like
Hmm.
looking at clouds and divining with clouds. You can divine with rocks. And,
Yeah.
I'm very of the opinion that the closest being to the divine are children.
Hmm.
They are
Absolutely.
directly, from the divine. We all are directly from the divine, but having a child, it's just, they're so innocent, and in
Hmm.
a way they're raw, and they're not yet corrupted by the
Absolutely.
adult world. So having a parent like you, is fantastic, because you're encouraging this. You're encouraging this connection to nature. You're, encouraging this openness to listening to nature and their
Yeah.
imagination. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I do try to keep that kind of that magic alive because yeah, we get told stories and we get told to shut down our emotions and we get
Hmm.
told that oh, you're just making things up and
Right.
just all of these pressures and outside influences that come in at a certain point. And I'm working on writing my book right now, and it's looking back over my lifetime, and it's about death and the actual deaths that I've experienced, but also the death of self times. And just looking at, yeah, when was that I shut down my emotions? Because it goes
Right.
all the way back to second grade because I was a big feeler, and it made the people around me uncomfortable, and so then I just shut it down, and so going back and actually healing those pieces and parts. So I'm sure I'm messing my kids up in plenty of ways, but I'm also trying to change some of those patterns or those things that affected me so deeply and greatly, and the things that
Right.
I see affect my clients so deeply and greatly. And one of that is that connection to fun and wonder. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients I'm like, okay, you need to laugh more, you need to
Hmm.
smile more, and you need to have more fun. And,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
comes through so clearly. And I know you're connected with the Fae, with the elementals, and those are always the energies and entities that come through for those particular clients because they do want us to live and wander of nature. They do want us to dance and laugh and play and do all of those things. So,
Exactly.
so I think whenever you do your oracle readings, you're using a fairy deck, correct?
Yes, it's the fairies
Okay.
oracle. It's very similar to tarot. It's just their own language, their own cards,
Mm-hmm.
their own energies. And like you were saying, I mean, a lot of times in readings, that's exactly what comes up for people is you need to go internal and rediscover your childlike wonder.
Mm-hmm.
You need to, dance in the rain, jump in a mud
Yes.
puddle, like whatever it does, so you don't take life too seriously and become a curmudgeon.
Mm-hmm.
Because too much, we're just, especially as adults, it's just pounded into us. This is what you need to do. You need to be responsible. You need to be serious. You need to be all this. But a lot of times, and I think that's why I do love working with the Fairies Oracle, because each card really does reflect human experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is, he's called Mickle, and he's all about remembering your childlike wonder, going
Yeah.
back and feeding that, because that's healing.
Yeah.
And I think when we go internally, especially when we look at our childlike nature, it does open up some traumas, some things that need healing,
Mm-hmm.
that again we suppress because we got to be responsible. We got to think
Yep.
about X, Y, and Z. We got to think about the mortgage. We got to think about the kids. We got to think about our significant other, and we don't give enough healing and time to our own traumas and our own
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And I think that's fantastic when that energy comes out, whether when you're giving readings or I'm giving readings, and when the divine and energy say you need to regress,
Yeah.
but with new eyes. And that's the thing too, is we're looking at it through more experienced eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and going internal. And I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, when I do the inner child healing work with my one on one clients, I've even done it in group setting too, but that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking, we're coming from our older, wiser self, but
Hmm.
going back into that inner child time, whether it's, 5, 6, 7, or even yesterday, we're still older and wiser today.
Right.
And what does that part of us need? Do they need the hug? Do they need taken out of that situation? What do they need to know about themselves that is true and real and not what they've internalized from other people's crap?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so, and obviously each person around them had their own traumas and their own issues
Exactly.
that happen.
Exactly.
And that goes back to that, spewing your own toxicity on the people around you.
Exactly.
So, we each have our individual path, and some of us heal more than others in each lifetime. And I love bringing in, we talked about the oracle readings, and that is a great way to highlight those pieces and parts of ourselves that do need some work. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, so if you are interested in a reading with Raven, if you're vibing with her energy, she will be at the expo on June 24th, and you can pre-book with her. The information will be in the write-up. And you also do those readings online as well, too, correct?
Yeah, I do the readings over the phone.
Okay,
I used to
perfect.
have the readings at the shop, but the space is really small now, and so until I can get either a bigger shop,
Mm-hmm.
or figure it out. But yeah, right now they're over the phone, which is
Excellent.
fantastic for people who aren't local.
Yeah.
They're just as accurate. They're just as insightful.
Mm-hmm.
I do 30 minutes for $70. And all the
Excellent.
information is on the website,
Yeah.
ravenwoodsoracle.com. And I'm really excited to, bring the readings to your amazing expo. But yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking before, I love reading with the Oracle deck. I started out about 25 years ago with tarot,
Mm-hmm.
and it just wasn't connecting. And I find it really important to connect with your tools. Like there's many
Absolutely.
forms of divination, as you know, and it's really important to not force yourself into a language that isn't natural flow for you.
Yeah.
So I studied tarot, the traditional tarot, for a while, and then I found the Fairies Oracle by Brian Froud. And if anyone is not familiar with Brian Froud, definitely go look him up. He's amazing. Froud.
Yeah.
And his art is absolutely fantastic. He's very connected to the elementals. But for me, especially this Oracle deck, it was the first time that I felt I could not only read the cards, but also open my psychism and open my
Mm.
intuition. I didn't feel like it was almost this memorization of symbolism, and symbolic thought that traditional tarot can be.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like that for everybody, but it's really important, I feel, for people to understand the different types of tools out there and not to pigeonhole themselves into, well, I have to learn traditional tarot, or I have to learn a pendulum, or I have to learn automatic writing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
definitely explore and
Yeah.
discover what your own language is, because it's all about vibration, it's all about energy, and it's all about connecting. And for me, the Fairies Oracle not only was the first deck that actually yelled at me, like, so,
Yeah.
but it helped me expand my psychism and my intuition, and it just flows. And through the years, I've learned not to silence myself,
Mm-hmm.
because there will be times I'm, doing a reading, and a card will come up and I get all this information and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what the card means. And I've stifled myself from actually saying what's in my head. And through the years, I've learned, no, I just need to
Yeah.
almost do it like automatic writing. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the words just flow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also one of the reasons I tell my clients, pay attention to what I'm saying, because I may not know what's coming out of my
Yeah.
mouth. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's just a trance, because my
Yeah.
spirit guides talk to the client spirit guides, and then I get all this
And
information.
then yeah, I know. That's what
Exactly.
sometimes when people are like, well, that was like really good. I'm like, I kind of blacked out. I don't know because
Yeah.
it's not blacking out, but it's just that, yeah, you're saying the things that are coming to you, but they're not from your own mind. They're
Right.
coming through, your your guides directing the message in the
Exactly.
way that that person needs to hear it. And that's the really cool
Exactly.
thing about the oracle decks and the other divination tools is that, yeah, like, I do at when I go to expos, I have a bag of all of the different decks that I sell, and I have people choose one. And, obviously over the years, people have chosen the same cards, but the message is always a little bit different
It's always different.
because they have their own life experience and they're bringing that to pulling that card. So, yeah, it might be the same card, but it is going to still be specific to them when you're open to your intuition,
Exactly.
when they are open to their intuition around it and hearing the message that that's meant for them. So I love that, and yeah,
Absolutely.
I love Raven's readings. So if you are local, definitely come check her out at the expo. And if you're not, absolutely find her and reach out. Every time I've had a reading with you, I think it is because I'm also so connected to the Fae and to the elementals that I just love that deck and I love that nature connection and the messages that come from that deck. So
Yeah.
yeah, I highly recommend the readings.
Well,
This is
I highly recommend you too.
oh, thank you.
Anytime I've had a reading from you, or a session from you, it's
Yes.
fantastic. It's so healing, and it's
Yeah.
so important, I think, too, for any person going into a reading session or a healing session, is not to have preconceived notions of what you're
Mhm.
going to get and being very open. I was very open with your session, and
Yeah.
it may not have been what you wanted it to
Yeah.
be, but it was exactly what I needed, the information that came. And that's why it's so important just to be open. And that's what I
Yeah.
tell my clients is, there may be things you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yes.
So, just take that in and don't be so kind of preconceived of what it is
Mhm.
you want. Because what happens is, if you come in with these preconceived notions of what you want to hear, anything else that comes in, you shut your mind to, you
Yeah.
shut your ears to. And there are times that I give readings and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And the person's like, yeah, but it
Nah.
didn't answer my question. I'm like,
Mhm.
listen, listen to the
Yes.
information that is
Yeah.
coming.
Take
We'll
it
go
in.
back.
Take it
And that's
in.
the
Allow. Yeah.
Exactly. Take it in, allow it, and then let's go back to what your question is and
Mhm.
let's see if I can get any information.
Yeah.
And the way that I do read is past, present, and future. And the past is just to remind you of what you've been through, remind you of the knowledge, the experiences, and the skill sets that your past experience have given you, how you can apply them to the present situation.
Yeah.
And then when we go into your future, I'm very adamant about future's not set in stone, but the way that I read people's futures is based upon where they are at that moment.
Mhm.
And then again, everything's about free will, taking in the information and deciding, X, Y, Z, what you want to do from there.
Yeah, and I know I was thinking about your session yesterday, obviously, starting to think about the interview coming up today, and I kind of had to laugh because you were kind of one of my early sessions where I really had to start internalizing that the soul will take us exactly where we need to go and do
Mhm.
exactly what we need to do, and I have to
Yes.
let go of my expectations and my ego
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can't force past life if that's not what your soul needs right now. And so,
Exactly.
for years, you went to the astral plane for healing, and that's exactly what you needed. And if
Yep.
I had kept, forcing my agenda, then your soul wouldn't have gotten what it most needed in that
Exactly.
moment on that day. And so, yeah, I kind of had to chuckle as I was thinking back because that was like a lot of years ago at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was my like, yeah, the
Yeah.
soul will always take us where we
Yeah.
need to go, whether it's current life healing, past life healing, the in between times. I call the in between times the like that astral plane, or when we're connected to source, and sometimes we need to just go there. So at this point, I've been at it long enough that I trust that. But those early
Exactly.
days, it was hard to like let go of
Yeah.
that.
Hey, I remember the early days of me not only reading for myself, but eventually when spirit was like, okay, you need to start doing this for
Hmm.
other people. Because I had no intention of, when I started reading at like 17, for myself,
Yeah.
that I would ever become a professional reader. which is to me is a great mentality. Don't get
Hmm.
into divination to think that, oh,
No.
I'm going to be the next, Miss Cleo, or
Yeah,
whatever. It's really about you healing yourself, you getting
absolutely.
guidance. But my reading techniques have completely changed for the most part since I started reading professionally. In
Hmm.
terms of, I allow myself to just let the reading and the spirit guide me,
Yeah.
not me forcing, like, okay, well, this client wants to hear X, Y, or Z, and I'm forcing that information, and then I feel like I'm failing.
Yes.
So again, it's learning. It's learning how to be the best reader and the best healer that you can for people, without, like you said, getting that ego or taking it personally that you're not getting
Hmm.
the information that the querent wants, but you have to almost teach them, like, hey, this is the information that you need to know.
Yeah.
So you're learning as well as the client is learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that again too about doing our own healing work, because when I went and got my advanced hypnosis certification, I learned self hypnosis. And during that, it was basically like, oh, this is an amazing tool to help me do even better at my own self work, my
Right.
own healing work, my own process of managing my emotions. And but now, so that's how it started. But now that is something that I teach almost every client because it is so powerful. But yeah, it absolutely started with like, oh, this is a great tool that I can use for myself so that
Right.
I can do for me what I do for other
Yeah.
people. And I even have a course coming up. It's a 5-week course because learning how to slow the mind and reset the body and process inner child, process emotions is just so vital to our well being. And, you've talked about some of your tools, I've talked about some of mine, and I would love to get into your more metaphysical items that you offer, the the candles, the herbs, the oils, the mojo charms. So I'd love to hear about some of that, what you'll be bringing to the expo, but also, of course, what people can find online and order that way as well.
Yeah. Those are things that, like you said, are available on the website, or if you come into my brick and mortar in DuBois. I love making items. I love utilizing my magical energy, my love, my magic into creating um, tools that people can use to better their lives or have
Mm-hmm.
some sort of peace. So, one of the things I do make and have been making for a very long time are candles. And I think I started when I was like 19 or
Mm.
20 making my own candles. And again, I was just making them for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought that anyone would want to buy my stuff. And so now they've evolved. They started out as intent candles, spell candles, and then they kind of went through an evolution, and now they're back to being intent candles, and I absolutely love them. So they're all soy. I put, I have an extensive experience and knowledge with herbs, oils, and crystals. So a lot of the things that I do make are very kind of earth-based,
Mm-hmm.
green witchery type of stuff. And my intent candles all have purposes. I have ones for protection, ones for love, ones for good fortune. I just came out with an ancestor candle, which is
Mm.
fantastic. Working with your ancestors, or like honoring them, and they all have crystals, essential oils in them. When it comes to energetic properties of items I make, I always use essential oils because fragrant oils don't really have any type of energetic to
Yeah.
them. They have that aromatherapy aspect, which is great as well. But I always use essential oils. Yeah, there's crystals on top of them. I use a lot of herbs and oils, and they're absolutely fantastic, and I love them. So I do my intent candles. I also do regular soy candles, just fragrant candles.
Mm-hmm.
And again, all those on the website. And then I also make mojo charms. I don't have any to show you, but
That's okay.
they're small little glass vials. And again, they're filled with herbs, oils, and crystals, my own recipes. And I have, you can wear them as charm necklaces. And I call them mojo charms because it's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they are. They're,
Yeah.
charms filled with mojo, magic, energy. And I have a whole zodiac line. So every sign of the zodiac has their own specific crystals, herbs, and
Blend.
oils,
I love that.
to almost serve as like a good luck charm for that specific zodiac
Mm-hmm.
sign. But what I tell people is it strengthens the strengths of those signs and helps you through the obstacles of those signs.
Yeah.
I never like to use weaknesses or anything bad, because they're just obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing, good or bad necessarily. And then I have ones for protection, prosperity. I have a divine love one, which is just filled with rose petals, and different types of crystals. I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And now, since the wild violets are blooming in my yard,
Mm.
I pick them and I make a seasonal wild violet a charm, and that has celestite in it. So it's all about, healing. It's all about self-love and things like that. What else do I make? Oh, I make sprays, different types of sprays. I do a sage spray, which is great for cleansing yourself or your space. Rose water. I like to actually cleanse a space and then follow it up with rose water, because when you're cleansing a space, whether it's through herbal cleansing or a spray or a candle, you're kind of leaving the area kind of a clean slate. So you want to fill it up.
Yep.
So
Need
then
to add that intention back in.
Exactly. So I'll utilize the rose water, which brings goodness and blessings and calm and love. And then I also do a sacred space spray, which is a Florida water recipe. And Florida is a Spanish word for flower. So it's technically flower water. And it's another great cleansing aspect. And I make those. I make ritual oils. I do like a psychic eye oil, a clarity oil. So good fortune, love. The love goddess ritual oil is fantastic. I'm constantly, every time I make it, I bathe myself in it because it smells so good.
Yes, because we got to do the self-healing too.
Exactly. So, I do incense, pretty much anything that I can make, I do. And the shop is filled with that.
Yes.
And again, I love being able to create things and then hearing back from people going, oh, I used your tool and it brought me this and it brought me that. Or it just made me feel more, like myself. And that's what I do. And that's why when people thank me for healing them, a healer's job is really just to reflect to the client or the other person that the healing is within them.
Absolutely.
So sometimes just having that tool as a talisman or an amulet, or a candle is just bringing, because I can make candles till I'm blue in the face. But if when you take that tool and you light it, if your focus, your intent, your emotion isn't there, then it's most likely not going to do anything. So what I'm trying to do is empower that person to say, here's the tool, now use it, utilize your energies, utilize your energy in the spiritual realm, utilize your energy in the mundane, realm, like go and do. So it's almost like a form of motivation of,
Yeah, I love that. And, we started out talking about sacredness, intention, and that's exactly what tools like that do, is it's that visual reminder. Like I was saying about the being open to opportunity and possibility. I don't know if I can do this. I blurred the background so I can't see. There we go.
There you go.
I kind of infuse that intention into this bracelet so that not only am I setting that energetic intention, but it's also my visual reminder. So when I feel it on my wrist, when it bumps off of something, then that's my reminder, like, oh yes, we are open to abundance. We are open to opportunity. We're open to possibility. And so, when you have the charm or the mojo or the candle right in your space, then it's there. It's present, and it's that reminder to keep going back to your intention, to what is important to you right now. And so I love that. So yeah, definitely check out, all of those items, come in person and get a feel for them as well. She's going to bring some of those to the expo as well.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be bringing a small amount just because I do want to focus on readings.
Yeah.
But I'll be bringing, some mojo charms, some candles, some sprays, some oils, and even going back to what you said before, like even just the action of like anointing yourself with oil is just such a ritual. It's such a, changing your mindset. It's like I have an oil that I call Simply Irresistible, which is Lang Lang oil. And Lang Lang oil is the attraction oil. So whether you're going on a job interview, whether you're meeting new people, being irresistible is not necessarily a romantic thing. And again, I think that's another thing, I like to teach people is, coming into your own self. Sometimes it's just being irresistible to yourself. and getting that confidence. But anointing yourself with oil is a ritual in itself. It sets
Mm-hmm.
that intention, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically. Like, I think it's so so important. So I'm really happy to be able to not only showcase the things that I make here and on my website, but also bring them to your amazing upcoming expo. So
Yeah.
I will definitely be having some of those.
Yay. I am so excited. Like I said, before we got on, I said I haven't seen you in forever. And every time I'm in DuBois, it's at weird hours. And so I haven't been
Yeah.
able to be in the shop. So I'm even excited to stop by and see some of the new stuff that you have made.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for being on today. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else that you feel called to share before we sign off? Are you feeling good about
Um,
everything?
I feel great about everything. But if
Good.
anybody wants to follow me, like I said, the website ravenmoonsoracle.com. But I'm also on, the dinosaur of Facebook under Raven Moon's
Hmm.
Oracle. I am on Instagram as well as TikTok. Again, everything is Raven Moon's Oracle. I like to keep everything easy and
Yeah.
consistent. But I appreciate, Alena, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. And thank you for inviting me to your expo. And I'm so excited. I
Yes.
can't wait for next month.
Yeah, absolutely. And reflecting that gratitude right back to you. And thank you all out there for listening today. If you have any
Thank you.
questions, you can reach out to either one of us. And the Raven's email will be in the show notes for you to pre book with her for the expo and all of those ways to connect with each one of us. So thank you
Yeah.
all.
Thank you so much. And, hopefully I'll see some of the viewers in the shop in DuBois. We're at 343 West Long
Yes.
Avenue, or just go to the website and you'll see the address. Thank you,
Awesome.
Alena, so
Thank
much.
you.